Hello, this is Paul from debatelove.com. So, what needs to happen in order for a country to lose some of its territory? You probably know that sometimes a country loses some of its territory. Think about Ukraine, which lost the Crimea. Or think about Spain, which is trying hard to keep Catalonia as a part of its territory. But is it possible for a country to lose part of its territory more in an ideological type of way? What if a certain area of country X decides to no longer adhere to the values that country X is based on? Could it be argued that this is also a form of loss of territory? Ideological loss of territory, if you will. I'd argue that this is something that we're going to see a lot in the next couple of decades, and that it should be taken seriously. The West is built on certain values, such as equality before the law, democracy, and the freedom of expression. These values can be described as Western values. This is Belgium, and Belgium is a country in Europe and is built on Western values. Therefore, in Belgium there is the freedom of expression, which ensures that a person can also say things that people strongly disagree with. The freedom of expression isn't so much to protect speech about how nice the weather is, but it is especially there to protect speech that is deemed by some people to be controversial or even shocking. A few weeks ago, Dutch politician Geert Wilders and his colleague Philip de Winter wanted to go to a neighbourhood in Brussels called Sint-Jans Molenbeek. They wanted to walk around there and perhaps give a speech. And Sint-Jans Molenbeek is a neighbourhood where 3 of the 8 Paris attackers of November 2015 came from, and which is known to be a neighbourhood where a lot of members of Islam live. Also, according to the Belgian newspaper De Morgen, there are 51 organizations in Sint-Jans Molenbeek involved with terrorism. 51. And this is based on a police report revealed to the newspaper. And this is a mainstream politically correct newspaper. So Wilders and his colleague De Winter wanted to go walk in Sint-Jans Molenbeek. But before they had the chance to do so, the municipality of Sint-Jans Molenbeek banned them from entering the neighborhood because, quote, "There is no way that people who talk about an Islam safari in the jihadi capital of Europe are welcome here. And this is provocation and their safety cannot be guaranteed." Of course, talking about an Islam safari is not nice. And perhaps it is an act of provocation. But the point is that in the West, because of the freedom of expression, one should actually be allowed to provocate without getting killed or beaten up. The freedom of expression is also there to protect those statements that shock, offend or disturb.
U gaat zo meteen het gebiedsverbod overtreden, of niet?
Nee, ik ga wandelen in een gemeente die behoort tot de hoofdstad van Brussel. En ik denk dat ik dat moet kunnen als volksvertegenwoordiger. Ik manifesteer niet, ik voer geen actie, ik betoog niet. Ik kom alleen de stand van zaken opnemen in een Brusselse gemeente. Dat moet kunnen, denk ik.
In uw eigen gemeente?
In mijn eigen gemeente, zo is dat, ja. En dit is de grens van de gemeente. De grens tussen Brussel en Molenbeek, ja. Er is een politieverordening die mij niet toelaat om de gemeente te betreden. En wij zijn hier om te laten toepassen.
U bent zojuist tegengehouden?
Ja, ik ben tegengehouden door de politie en ik respecteer de wet en ik ga dus ook...
Of course, Belgium and the Netherlands, generally speaking, are too far gone to realize what it means if the freedom of expression no longer applies in a certain area of their territory. And you can probably guess what the average member of the religion of political correctness has to say about this, such as this politically correct professor did a few weeks ago. He compared Wilders' plan to walk through Sint-Jans Molenbeek with Nazis who walked through a Jewish neighborhood. As always, they compare Wilders with Adolf Hitler and Wilders' party members and his voters with the Nazis. How surprising. Well, let's turn this poor comparison around and imagine the following scenario. Somewhere in eastern Germany, there is a little town where real neo-Nazis live. I'm not talking about people who are critical towards Islam and mass migration. I'm talking about real neo-Nazis. People who are calling themselves Nazis. Now imagine that a German politician with a Jewish background were to go there to give a speech, and he calls it a Nazi safari. And imagine that the municipality were to ban this politician from entering the town, because, quote, "There is no way that people who talk about the Nazi safari in the Nazi capital of Europe are welcome here." And It is provocation, and there's no way that their safety can be guaranteed. Now, what would this mean? This would mean that the freedom of expression no longer applies in this specific town. And this is a problem. It could then be argued that this territory is an ideological enclave, inhabited by followers of a totalitarian political ideology that opposes Western values, and where the freedom of expression therefore no longer applies. So let's go back to Geert Wilders, his Belgian colleague, and the municipality of Sint-Jans Molenbeek. The fact that this municipality refused to let them enter the territory indicates that the territory has become an ideological enclave, inhabited by followers of a totalitarian political ideology that opposes Western values and where the freedom of expression no longer applies. The name of this ideology is Islam. Sint-Jans Molenbeek is no longer Belgium. It has become an ideological enclave. This is what ideological loss of territory looks like, and it could only just be the beginning. There are much more neighborhoods like this, and if Europeans don't start voting for different candidates, it is destined to get much, much worse. This is Paul from thebeteleft.com. If you like the content, subscribe to this channel or please consider supporting my work through Patreon. Or you can also check out my book. Almost 5,000 copies have already been sold. Thanks for watching and have a good day everyone.